Today I want to talk about measuring, because tomorrow I'll be getting a whole new group of classes, and there will be my final 3 terms of the year. And what I like to do on the very first day of class is I like to go over measurement. I tell the kids, I want to go over measurement because it's probably one of the most boring things we'll do the entire time you're in here, but it's also one of the most necessary things that you'll learn. And so what I do is I have the kids sit down in front of me, and I give them each a screw, just like this, and they use the tip of the screw to point with. And I give them a little quiz. I lay the tape measure out on the table, just like this, and we start out really easy. We start out with just whole inches, and I go through the whole group, and Johnny point to 5 inches, and he uses the screw, and they point to 5 inches. And I start out with the inches because sometimes they think that if you just point at the number 5, that's the whole inch, and they don't realize that that line that goes all the way across next to the number 5 is actually where the inch line is measured from. And then, most people, they get that right away. And then we go to the half-inch mark, which they can also find pretty easily. They know it's halfway between 5 and 6, or 15 and 16, wherever I'm asking them to measure, and they point to that. So then they start to gain a little bit of confidence with their measuring skills. One of the things that I always hear from my students is that, oh, I'm terrible at math. Math isn't my thing. And I let them know that measuring has nothing to do with math. Measuring is, when you're learning to measure, it's a memorization thing. You have to learn where the marks are on the tape measure and understand, what each mark is. And once you understand it and remember it, you'll know how to measure. You don't have to add, you don't have to subtract, or any of that. We can get into that eventually with our projects, of course. We do a lot of math in woodworking, but in this case, they don't have to have that anxiety about math. So after I go over the inch and the half inch, then we move on to 3/4 of an inch. We talk about 4 quarters in a football game, 4 quarters in a basketball game in the NBA, and how the first quarter comes before halftime and the third quarter comes after the half. We talk about a dollar bill and how 4 quarters make up $1. And then we look at the 1/4 inch marks, and usually no issues really trying to find the 1/4 inch marks. We're also starting to talk about, at this point, how the lines are getting shorter and shorter as we get into smaller measurements. Once I get down to 1/8 of an inch, I like to stop there and start to draw out the inch. So then I say, okay, we've got the full inch. You guys, this is 0, this is 1. And you guys found the half-inch mark really quickly and really easily. Now, you also found a 1/4 inch, which came in the middle of the first half, and the 3/4 inch, which came in the middle of the second half. And then we talk about the marks that come in the middle here. But before I want to talk about those, we also want to add in these. What are these called? And usually someone will say those are 1/16 of an inch. And then I go on to say every 2 lines is an 1/8. So we count up 2 lines, and we got 1/8. And then we go up 2 more, and we have 2/8 of an inch, which can be reduced in mathematics to 1/4. And then we go up 2 more, we got 3/8. And then this is the one I want them to really remember. 4/8 is equal to 1/2. If you can remember 4/8 is equal to 1/2, it's going to make the 1/8 really, really simple. And then we have up 2 more lines is 5/8. 6/8, of course, can be reduced to 3/4. 7/8, and then 8/8 equals 1. 8 divided by 8 equals 1. So then we take a look at this, and this is the one that I want them to really remember. 4/8 is the same as a half. So if you're looking for whatever dimension it is, say 3 and 3/8, you go to 3 1/2. You remember that that's 4/8, and you count back 2 lines, and you get to 3 3/8. And then I say, well, how do you get to 3 5/8? They say, oh, go to the half and count up 2 lines, because 5 is greater than 4. And they tend to start getting an understanding. Of course, 1/8 is really simple to find. 5 and 1/8, just go to the 5 and do what? Count up 2 lines, and you can find 1/8. And of course, 7/8 is the other one. 7/8 is almost a whole inch. So if I ask for 4 and 7/8, they go to the 5 and they count backwards 2. So in every case, when they're looking for their 1/8 of an inch, they only have to count 2 lines. They shouldn't have to go 1, 2, 1/8, 1, 2, 2/8, 3/8. They shouldn't have to make it that hard. What I want them to be is I want them to be accurate at measuring, but I also want them to be efficient, quickly find measurements. And that'll come with practice. You know, I tell them all that you're not going to get this right this second. You're going to understand it right now, partially, and then as you start to practice, you'll understand it even more. And then the final thing that we go over, a 1/16 of an inch, I tell them that you could cheat, and you could say, you know, you could count every single line. The one thing that I see that people who are learning to measure, the only mistake that they make is they skip over the other one. So they say this is 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, which isn't how it is. You have to count every line. Even though this says 1/8, it's obviously 2/16. So you got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to 5/16. However, I introduce this to them the same way that I introduced the 4/8. I tell them that there's now 3 things to remember when you're dealing with 1/16 of an inch. If you want to get really good at 1/16 of an inch, all you have to remember are these 3 things. And I write down over the 1/4 inch mark how many 1/16 in a 1/4 inch. Some of them know it, 4/16, and I circle it. How many and a half? What's half of 16? 8/16. And then I circle that, and then I've got 12/16. And I tell them, if you guys eventually can remember that a 1/4 inch is 4/16, a 1/2 inch is 8/16, and 3/4 is 12/16, you'll find all of your 16ths just as simply as you did your 8ths. So if you're looking for 3/16, you remember that 1/4 is 4, you just go back 1. If you're looking for 13/16, remember that this is 12, 3/4, you go up 1. Okay, of course 1/16 is here, 15/16 is almost a whole inch, so you go here. Okay, and 7/16 is real simple because you know 1/2 is 8, so you go back 1 for 7 and up 1 for 9. It may be mind-boggling and mind-blowing at the beginning, all these numbers I'm throwing at you, but once you understand it, it can be real simple. And I know a lot of adults that struggle with measurement. So hopefully this little lesson, it's a little long for today, but hopefully this little lesson will help anyone that struggles with measurement. And if you have any ideas on your own and you've made it this far in the video, please comment and let me know if there's anything else that helped you remember how to measure or learn how to measure. And that, although it's long, is your tip of the day.